What's up, everybody? It's me. I'm Z, the astrologer from astrologyztv.com, and I am back with another astrological video for you, another astrological keynote presentation. In this video, this is part two. Stelliums in astrology. Yesterday, I did part one. I went from the first house to the sixth house. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the seventh house to the 12th house. This is so important because the stelliums in astrology represent concentration of energy. There's emphasis in these houses, right? So it's so important. This is why I'm making this video, to provide value to you so you can really understand your stelliums in detail. If you gain value from this, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe to help the channel out, all right? So let's get into it. Let's start with the seventh house. Seventh house stellium. So when you have a seventh house stellium, there is emphasis on relationships and partnerships in your life. This is just one of the many things that the seventh house rules. The seventh house rules relationships and partnerships. So not just regular relationships like marriage or boyfriend, girlfriend, but also business partnerships. So when you have this, there is complete emphasis on this. You'll see this a lot in the charts of people who, they've been married multiple times, or marriage is a big part of their life, or their business partnerships are a big part of their life, or both. This gives you strong Libra energy because Libra rules the seventh house. So when people have this, you may notice that if you were to read Libra descriptions, it sounds a lot like you. You can resonate with a lot of the Libra descriptions because Libra rules the seventh house. And you may notice that when you have a seventh house stellium, you get along very well with other air signs, fire signs, because you can resonate with that Libra air energy. These people do well in business in general and in businesses that involve contracts. So how the seventh house works is that, remember, it's all about relationships and partnerships, which is connected to business, right? So when people have this, they tend to be very good at business, more specifically businesses that involve contracts. Like, for example, wholesaling, real estate, or whatever type of contract business, it is that you do that involves that contract. People usually, with this seventh house stellium, they usually do very well in those businesses because they know how to negotiate. They have that Libra energy. They know how to communicate with people. They know how to, compromise. They know how to make deals and stuff like that, right? That's complete Libra energy. There is a strong connection to beauty, fashion, music, and art. Again, this all has to do with Libra and Libra energy and the things that Libra rules, because Libra rules the seventh. So when people have this, they're usually very big on beauty, fashion, music, and art. They have a strong appreciation for these things. You see this in musicians, models, people who are painters and artists, actors, right? Because they really appreciate arts and the finer things in life. That's what they really gain value from, and they do well in these industries. There's emphasis on your shadow self and hidden enemies. See, now the seventh house and the 11th house, a lot of astrologers are different. Some will say that, the 12th house is the hidden enemy house, not the seventh house. And then some will say the seventh house is the shadow self, hidden enemy house. But we're going to discuss both. So pretty much how the seventh house works is that it shows you your shadow self. It shows you the side of you that people don't see, the side of you that you tend to keep hidden. Because remember, your first house is the side that everyone sees, right? Like, for example, like with me, everybody sees the Sagittarius rising, the loud, opinionated, optimistic person. They don't see the Gemini on the seventh house. That's the side that's a little bit more hidden. So when you have this, you express your hidden side a little bit more, your shadow self a little bit more. You may not be as expressive as expressing your first, your rising, your ascendant. You express your descendant a lot more, your shadow and hidden self. Eighth house stellium. So let's talk about it. What does it mean when you have an eighth house stellium? So when you have an eighth house stellium, there is emphasis on complex finances and emotional experiences in your life. The eighth house is all about complex finances, complex emotions. When you have this, there's just a lot of that in your life. There's a lot of complex financial stuff that you have going on. There's a lot of complex emotional stuff that you got going on in your life. And this will continue your entire life. It's all about how you navigate it and manage this complexity, because you can make this complexity work for you, or you can make this complexity work against you. It's all about how you express it. This gives you strong Scorpio energy because Scorpio rules the eighth house. So when you have an eighth house stellium, you may notice that you can totally resonate and identify with Scorpio energy very strongly. You 100% understand it. The desire for control, the desire for power, being intense, being chaotic. You can totally resonate with Scorpio descriptions. And you may notice that you tend to, make a lot of Scorpio friends, get in relationships with Scorpios a lot. And you may notice that you tend to get along with water signs and earth signs a lot, because water and water signs get along with earth and water very well. So yes, eighth house stellium, very strong Scorpio energy. These people would highly benefit from being investors. The eighth house, like I said, is all about complex finances. It's not simple finances. Like, for example, you work a job and then you get paid. No, we're talking about complex finances, meaning like being married and your finances are tied up with someone else. We're talking about like being a real estate investor, stock market investor. These are complex finances. It's not simple money like just getting a salary from your job. So 100%, these people would highly benefit from being investors. I have my Jupiter in my eighth house, Chiron, and my sun in the eighth house, and I'm obsessed with investing. Like, I've learned so much about the investing world, and I'm crazy about being an investor, and I know it's going to make me a lot of money. So you should do the same too. If you're an eighth house person, make sure you're learning about the investment game and how to make money from buying and purchasing assets. These people would highly benefit from seeing a therapist at some point. Remember, like I said, the eighth house is all about complex emotions, right? So with that being said, knowing that you have these complex emotions as well, not only do you get in this complex financial stuff, you got the complex emotional stuff, you would benefit from seeing a therapist, because a therapist will help you deal with those complex emotions. A therapist can help you not be so chaotic emotionally and get better control over your emotions. So this is very, very important. You must consider seeing a therapist at some point in your life if you have strong eighth house energy like this. You must work on being less emotionally complex. So this is just further reinforcing what I was saying before, is that you must put emphasis and energy into controlling the emotional complexity and not having as much emotional complexity in your life, not to a point where it doesn't destroy you. You want to be able to manage it in an effective way. Only get involved financially with people, businesses, and assets that you can really trust. This is so important because remember, like I said, eighth house is all about complex finances, complex emotions. So if you're going to get involved financially in a complex way with people, it better be somebody you can trust. If you're going to, invest into a business, it better be a business that you can trust. If you're going to buy an asset, it better be an asset that you trust and that you've done your research on. The biggest mistake that you could make is marry somebody that, is not good with money, or marry somebody that you can't trust. You can't really build a life with this person, or you invest into things that you have no idea what you're doing. So this is very important. Only get involved financially with people, businesses, and assets that you trust and you've done your research. You see this in the charts of successful investors, bankers, and therapists. I talked about in the last video how I'm a physical therapist and I have this strong eighth house energy. You see this in the charts of therapists, because the thing is, what happens is you're so complex emotionally, you end up dealing with other people's problems and their complexities and their issues, and you help them with their issues. And yes, going back to the money thing and the complex finances, you see this with successful investors and bankers. So do with that what you will. Ninth house stellium. Let's get into it. What if you have a ninth house stellium? There is emphasis on higher education and higher knowledge in your life. This is very important. This is what the ninth house rules. The ninth house rules higher education and higher knowledge. What do you mean higher education and higher knowledge? Meaning like going to college, going to a university, traveling long distance, saying, you know what? I'm getting out of my local neighborhood, third house. I'm going to travel long distance and go to some university. I'm going to go to another country. I'm a philosopher. I study all these philosophical, topics and information. I have this as well. And you can see I'm a very strong ninth house person. I love higher education. I love higher knowledge. And so do you if you have a ninth house stellium. This gives you strong Sagittarius energy, right? And when you have this, you can totally identify and resonate with Sagittarius energy. You may find that you get along with Sagittarians very well, or you get along with fire signs in general very well, and air signs in general very well, because Sagittarius is a fire sign. Fire signs like fire and they like water, right? So when you have this, you 100% understand and identify with Sagittarius energy, and you almost feel like a Sagittarius sun yourself. These people would highly benefit from being authors and getting a publishing deal. This is very, very important. The ninth house rules basically making money from work that you've done. Like, you've done work, you've published work, your intellectual property, right? I love that term, intellectual property, right? So yes, you would highly benefit from your intellectual property and getting paid from that intellectual property. That's a big part of the reason why I make these YouTube videos, is because it's my intellectual property. I get money from this, when they put ads on these videos. And you should do the same thing too. You should be creating intellectual property and getting paid from that intellectual property. These people would highly benefit from traveling the world and exposing themselves to other cultures. When you have a ninth house stellium, you got to travel the world. You got to get out there. You got to expand your mind and expand your experiences and consider living in another country at some point, right? And, it's funny, I talked about it with my wife, a lot, since we've been together, like, yeah, I think we should try to live in another country, someday. And I love the idea of it. Like, you can go to Thailand and get like a big 2-bedroom house for like $600 a month, if that, $700 a month. And I love that. I love that there's so many opportunities that, we could expose ourselves to, traveling the world and exposing ourselves to other cultures. Don't limit yourself. You got to get yourself out there. Religion, philosophy, and spirituality is a big deal in your life. These are the matters that the ninth house rules. The ninth house rules religion, philosophy, and spirituality. You see this in the charts of people who are very religious. They're always studying these deep philosophical topics, or they're very spiritual people. There's this guy named Eleventh House that I love a lot, on YouTube, and he just gives off such strong ninth house energy because he's just such a philosophical guy. You're probably a foreigner or you live in a foreign land. When people have very strong ninth house energy, either their family is a foreigner, like myself, like I was born in America, but my whole family is Jamaican, or at some point you move to a foreign land. So maybe you're not a foreigner yourself, but these are the type of people who, like, they're American, but then they'll go live in Thailand or they'll go live in Europe or something like that because they just love the idea of expanding their minds and expanding their experiences. And a lot of times their lineage, their family, they expanded their minds and expanded their experiences by coming to America, right? So this is so cool. You see this in the charts of pastors, successful authors, life coaches, and successful foreigners. This is all the ninth house energy. Pastors, sharing their higher knowledge, their philosophical knowledge. Successful authors, they make all that money from their intellectual property. Life coaches, they have so much experiences that they share with the world. And successful foreigners. A lot of times you see this, like, for example, like famous soccer players like Messi and Ronaldo and all these people, like, Nicki Minaj, she's a foreigner. Drake is a foreigner. You see this in the charts of people who they come to America and they make a whole bunch of money because they expanded their minds, they expanded their experiences, and now they're making a whole bunch of money from it. 10th house stellium. Let's talk about what it means if you have a 10th house stellium. When you have this, there is emphasis on public life, career, and status in your life. This is what the 10th house rules. Your public life, your public reputation, what your career is associated with, and the type of status that you'll be able to achieve in your life. This gives you strong Capricorn energy because Capricorn rules the 10th house. If you have a 10th house stellium, and I have this as well, you can totally identify with Capricorn energy. Being a hard worker, being somebody that grinds, somebody that's disciplined, somebody who's went through a lot. You know what I'm saying? They have a lot of scars, but they've pulled themselves up from those hard, dark times. When I think about strong Capricorn energy, think about LeBron James. Like, he's like 100% Capricorn energy. He came from poverty, no father, and worked and grinded and built himself all the way up to the top of the league, to almost being a billionaire. So yeah, when you have this, if you were to read Capricorn descriptions, you can totally identify and resonate with that because you're like, yeah, I am a hard worker. I want a public life. I want to be successful in my career and I want to have status. And when you have this, you're likely to get along well with other earth signs and water signs. You are obsessed with achieving status. When you have this, you are obsessed with being famous. Even if you don't talk about it and you try to hide it, you want status. Trust me, you want status. I know the real deal. You see this in the charts of famous people / authority figures. So not only does the 10th house have to do with fame, it also has to do with being an authority figure, somebody who has a reputation. You see this a lot with cops, politicians, people that have that status, like they run things, right? I'm the one dropping down the law and the authority around here. Presidents, 100%. You see this in the chart very, very strongly of presidents. If I'm not mistaken, I know Putin, the leader of Russia, I know he has a lot of 10th house energy as well. These people must do well in business and career in some way. It's not an option. If you have very strong 10th house energy, you must put a lot of energy into developing your businesses or climbing the career ladder, climbing the success ladder, because that's going to give you that public life, the career security, and the status that you're so desperate and you want to achieve so bad. Discipline and hard work is a big theme of your life. 100%, if you have a 10th house stellium, discipline is hard work is a total big theme of your life, because that's what's going to give you the public life, the career, the fame, the status, everything that you're looking for. You must grind. You must discipline. You must, put in the work. Like I said before, I have a 10th house stellium as well. I have very, very strong 10th house energy, and I work like a maniac. I grind. Even when I'm tired, I push myself. I'm tired right now. Like, you must grind. You must put in the work. Because when you have that 10th house, you want status. You desperately want status. And how are you going to get there if you don't grind, if you don't put in the work? You must guard and protect your reputation. So this is so, so important. I feel like, honestly, this is probably the most important point. Remember, the 10th house is reputation. It's what do people say about you? What is your reputation? You must guard and protect that. This is one of the 48 laws of power. When you're trying to be successful and you're trying to climb that success ladder, if your reputation gets damaged, that can damage your success. Think about politicians who they were trying to, become elected, and then a scandal came out. Like that guy, Andrew Gillum, right? That guy, Andrew Gillum, I think he was trying to become the mayor in some city in Florida. And then this scandal came out, that he had going on, and he didn't win the election, right? It's so important. You must guard and protect your reputation. You want to have the type of reputation that you can be proud of. People can say, good things about you, not you're associated with scandals. You don't want that. 11th house stellium. Let's talk about the 11th house stellium, and if you have 11th house stellium. When you have this, there is emphasis on shared ideals in your life. What do I mean shared ideals? Shared ideals meaning you spend your life connecting with people who think the same way that you think. Hey, we both like astrology, right? That's the whole reason why, I have very strong 11th house energy in me as well. I have my Pluto in the 11th house. And this is the reason why I'm so obsessed with building a community, an astrology community, right? When you have this, you must connect with other people who think the same way you do. Maybe you're a Trump supporter and you connect with other Trump supporter. Maybe you like, knitting sweaters. You like to knit stuff. Okay, connect with other people who like to knit. Maybe you're red pill. Maybe you're against marriage. Connect with people who feel the same exact way that you do. This is very important. You must just really thrust yourself into communities of people who think the exact same way that you do and have the same beliefs and ideologies. This gives you strong Aquarius energy because Aquarius rules the 11th house. When you have an 11th house stellium, if you were to read like Aquarius descriptions, you would feel like this sounds like me. This sounds 100% like me. I'm a humanitarian. I'm a rebel. I like my friends. I like to connect with other like-minded people. And when you have this, having that strong Aquarius energy, you may notice that you get along very well with fire signs and water signs because air likes other water signs and likes fire signs. You see this in the charts of social media personalities / famous people. Very important. People who have like very, very strong 11th house energy like this, like it's a stellium. See, I don't have a stellium, but people who have a stellium, like a whole bunch of energy sitting in their 11th house, these people, it's almost guaranteed that they're going to become social media personalities at some point. Like, I would be shocked. Like, if you have this and you don't become some type of social media personality, especially as a young person, if you have this, like, what are you doing, right? So you definitely see this in the chart of social media personalities and famous people because that's a big part of becoming famous and successful and having status. This is the reason why it comes after the 10th house. Because remember, the 10th house, you get the fame and the status, but then the 11th house is you get to connect with those like-minded people, and it helps increase your fame even more. You must connect with other like-minded people. Further reinforcing what I was saying before is this is so important. You must connect with like-minded people because a lot of times when people have strong 11th house energy, they have other placements that are conflicting us, and it makes them shy and nervous. Like, but I won't fit in. But I don't really like social media. Nobody cares if you like social media. You need to connect with like-minded people. You need to be using it because it's a powerful tool to connect you with people who think just like you do. Friends are a big part of your life. The 11th house rules our friends. You got to look at the sign and the planets and all that stuff that are in the 11th house. That's going to tell you what type of friendships you have, Like, for example, like I said before, I have Pluto in the 11th house. I've had friends die, you know what I'm saying? Which is, totally terrifying. But the point is that the planets and the signs that are there can tell you what your experience are like with your friends. Do you have a positive experience with your friends, or is it like a chaotic experience? Like, I don't do friends, you know what I'm saying? I don't do friends. That's a whole nother thing, having, Pluto in the 11th house. But when you have this, friends are a big part of your life in some way, even maybe in a negative way. You're just like, nah, I don't do friends. I don't trust people. Like whenever you see people who they're like, yeah, I just don't do friends. I just don't do that, or you have people where they love their friends. Like they're very, very big on their friends. They usually have some type of strong 11th house stuff going on that's affecting their relationship with their friends. You are obsessed with belonging to some type of group, cause, or community. Further reinforcing what I was saying, this has to do with the whole shared ideal thing. When people have this, you want to become a part of a group, you want to become a part of a cause, you want to become a part of a community, but you can't let fear stop you. You cannot let fear stop you in feeling like you won't fit in, because that's the downside of Aquarius energies. A lot of times you'll feel like, but I don't fit in. What if they don't accept me? I'm different. It doesn't matter. You got to get yourself involved with people who are just like you, even if they still don't seem like you. Because even when we get involved with these groups or communities, we still have our individuality, which makes us feel weird. Like, wow, I'm a part of this group in this community, but dang, I still feel like I don't stand out. That's the whole point. Who cares? Still, you should be a part of connecting with people who are similar to you. Networking is important to you, and you understand the importance. When people have this, they know the importance of networking, even when they try to deny it. Because, I've tried to deny it too. Like, I don't like social media. It's too hard to build it. It takes too much time. It takes too much effort. But what I realize is I got to get out of that, because it's so important to network. It's so important to build something, build some type of community, be a part of some type of group or cause. And for you, it's the same way. You know the importance. Don't shy away from it. And the last thing is understanding you must leave some kind of legacy. You must leave some kind of legacy. The 11th house is associated with legacy. So whatever your legacy is, whatever it's going to be, how you build that legacy is through your career, 10th house, and through connecting with like-minded people and, being a part of a cause. That's how you leave some kind of legacy, which is very important to an 11th house person. Last but not least, 12th house stellium. What does it mean if you have a 12th house stellium? There is emphasis on mental health in your life. So important. People who have this, mental health is going to be a reoccurring theme in your life, like constant reoccurring theme. When you have this, you got to protect your mental health, man. You have to almost become a mental health advocate. Like you got to make mental health such a big deal. This gives you strong Pisces energy, because Pisces rules the 12th house, right? So when you have a 12th house stellium, you may notice that if you were to read Pisces descriptions, you're like, wow, this sounds a lot like me. Like, this is me. Like, let's say you're a Libra sun. But because you have such a strong 12th house stellium, you identify more with Pisces energy. Pisces energy sounds a lot more like you, right? And you may notice that because you have such strong Pisces energy, you get along with other water signs, or you get along with other, earth signs, right? So because water likes water and water likes earth. You see this in the charts of people who are associated with places of isolation. What do I mean places of isolation? Places of isolation are associated with like nursing homes, prisons, hospitals, places where people are isolated away from society, and there's usually some type of suffering involved. So now the thing is with this is you got to make sure this is expressed in a positive way, because you could work in these places. Like, for example, I have, strong 12th house as well. I have my Pluto in the 12th. I have it in the 11th and the 12th. So, me having my Pluto in the 12th, I work in a nursing home, right? So, I'm not necessarily in a nursing home right now, but I work in one. And you'll see a lot of people who have this, like they're correctional officers where they work in prisons, right? Or like, they're a nurse and they work in hospitals, right? So some type of way, when people have this, they're associated with places of isolation in some kind of way. Or maybe, you have a family member that you love and you care about that's in a place of isolation, right? You see this in the charts of people who are very spiritual, right? The 12th house rules spirituality, right? Pisces rules the 12th house. So when you have this, these people are usually very, very spiritual. And even if they aren't spiritual early in their life, they become very, very spiritual as they get older, because they have to tap into their mental health. They have to tap into their spirituality. That's how they get to that place. You must always work on improving your mental health. I cannot stress this enough. This is not something you can neglect, because a lot of times when people have this, they try to neglect their mental health, like, oh, I'm fine. Or they try to just like block it out of their minds. No, you can't block this out of your mind. You must improve your mental health, or it could destroy you. Remember, the 12th house is also the house of self-undoing. So if you don't take care of your mental health, it's going to work against you. Your actions and you not being mentally healthy is going to work against you, and it can destroy you. So you can't neglect that. Spending time alone and prioritizing meditation is crucial to your success. This is so important. A lot of times 12th house people, it's very difficult for them to progress and to succeed in life because they don't spend enough time alone. You got to spend quiet time. You have to meditate, but spend time with no stimulus, no phone, no type of stimulus whatsoever. Quiet. Get connected to the creator. Spend time alone with yourself. Get all your unhealthy thoughts out. Allow yourself to purge all your unhealthy thoughts and feelings. This is so important, and this is the crucial part to your success. Try to avoid drug use, mainly hardcore drugs, because I get it. A lot of people use drugs. As much as drugs gets like a negative, connotation, I suggest staying away from hardcore drugs. Like, you shouldn't be on the hardcore stuff like coke, crack, heroin. Definitely not. Stay far away from anything hardcore, because that's definitely going to destroy you, and it can land you in a place of isolation like prison, and that's not what you want for yourself, right? And that's everything you need to know. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know what you think. Let me know what stellium you have and if this stuff resonates with you. Take care.